That's Wretch right here on your Classic Metal Show, another Cleveland band on the Auburn record label that is watching the world, ruling the night, and that one goes out to a departed broadcaster, Art Bell.
Yes, very sad, dude.
Art Bell has passed away, and if you aren't aware of who Art Bell is, he hosted a show that, as a truck driver back many years ago, I used to listen to Coast AM.
Of course.
And that went on for hours. It was kind of like the Classic Metal Show overnight.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so yeah, Art Bell was the best, dude. Nobody touched him as far as how good he was. Every show, even if it was shit you didn't care about, you could still listen to it for 4 or 5 hours just because Art was fucking enticing.
Yeah. I think one of the things I liked about Art's show, not only the content, but I liked the bumpers. It's coast to coast. On the East Coast, you can dial 800 blah, blah, blah. West of the Rockies, call blah, blah, blah,
Right. From the high desert.
Yeah, from the deserts of Nevada.
Yeah, from the high desert here in Pahrump.
Yeah, Pahrump, out where the prostitutes live.
Yeah. Art was good. Up until he got married 3 hours after his wife died. He had that one wife that died.
Yeah.
And then he was off the air because she died. And then it seemed like it was within weeks of him coming back on. He was like, well, I'm now engaged to some other chick.
Yeah, he got a new chick.
In no time. Probably met her at the casket. They were pushing the casket down. He met this fucking Asian chick. Well, but yeah, that's when he started going bad. Because then he would come to the show and he would start talking. He wasn't on full time. That was already Snorri was in there.
Right.
But he would do like specials, like Ghost to Ghost and on Halloween and some Saturdays and whatnot. He would come on. But then when he would come on, he would do 2 hours talking about his fucking kid. And was like, dude, what are you doing? No one cares. I want to hear about fucking ghosts.
And paranormal. Yeah,
tell me about play some audio of a room and then tell me where they're saying, kill you, get out.
Right.
That's what I want to hear. I want to hear about your kid fucking entering a coloring book contest. Dumbbell.
Yeah. Well, anyway, according to the Washington Post, in the small of the night, when the mind is open and the defenses are erased, mysteries blossom and conspiracies run wild.
Ooh.
In the darkest of hours, Art Bell was a light left on for the lonely insomniacs, the Americans searching for answers in a society they believed was spinning out of control.
Mm-hmm.
This is Rod Serling. You've entered the Twilight Zone.
Right.
For more than 2 decades, Mr. Bell, who died April 13th, isn't that strange? April 13th?
Yeah.
Friday the 13th.
Well.
He died on Friday the 13th.
Maybe he's not really dead.
You get the irony there?
Yes.
At 72, stayed up all night talking to those people on the radio, patiently encouraging them to tell their stories about alien abductions, crop circles, anthrax scares, and as he put it, all things seen at the edge of vision.
Well.
Mr. Bell's peak in his show in the 90s, Coast to Coast AM, was on more than 400 radio stations.
Yeah.
That's a feat in itself.
Yeah.
One guy at a small radio station in Pahrump, Nevada, and if you ever been out to Pahrump, Nevada, there's nothing out there except for whorehouses.
Yeah. He's by far the biggest thing other than pussy that's ever come out of Pahrump.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
He took calls all night long, alone in a studio he built in his isolated homestead in Pahrump in the Nevada desert. He punched up the callers himself, unscreened, keeping one line just for those who wanted to talk about really happened at Area 51, the U.S. government reserve. That, for decades, has been the locus of UFO sightings and purported encounters with alien beings.
Right.
Yeah, he definitely was an influence of mine when it comes to building your own studio.
Sure.
Because that's exactly what I've done here for the CMS.
Yeah.
And, it was his own domain.
Yeah.
And
nobody could control it.
And I admired that about him.
Yeah.
Long before fake news became a political topic, Mr. Bell made a good living encouraging Americans to accept the most fantastic and unlikely tales, to believe that we're not alone.
Yeah.
To accept the world where the pace of life seemed to be quickened with every passing year. There were forces from beyond that were trying to tell us something.
Mm-hmm.
What did they tell you, Chris? I know you used to go to sleep with...
Art, and then Snorri, yeah. I loved Art. The thing with Art was a lot of times I wouldn't end up going to sleep because I would get into whatever he was fucking talking about. And when he talked conspiracy theories, and that was always my favorite. I wasn't real hip to when he would spend 4 hours droning around with some dickhead about Bigfoot or whatever. But, man, when he would start talking JFK and he'd have Jim Mars on there to just, tell you how everything really played out. Yeah, it'd be for the whole night. It'd get to be 5:30 in the morning. I'd be like, fuck, I got to go to work now. I didn't go to sleep.
Yeah.
Just sucked.
Well, when I was out on the road driving a truck back in the 90s,
mm-hmm.
and, I drove 48 states, parts of Canada,
sure.
So on and so forth. That was my only companion out there.
Yeah, just you and Art.
Yeah, just Art and I just traveling the roads of America in the middle of the night.
Did you ever, when he was talking about UFOs, kind of look around to see if you saw any?
Actually, I did. It was kind of spooky.
Right.
Because you get out in like the deserts of New Mexico or Arizona,
yeah.
Traveling along I-40,
mm-hmm.
And listening to that at, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
It gets kind of puts a little chill down your spine.
Oh, yeah. You're driving along and some guy says, yeah, I got abducted from my truck. And you're like, oh, shit.
In about 40 cities around the country and in London and Tokyo, Art Bell chat clubs met regularly to hear talks about ufologists. Ufologists, okay? I didn't even know that was a word.
Yeah, the ufologists.
Ufologist. And by people who described their near-death and past life experiences. He also had more prominent guests on the show, that is singers, comics, actors, scientists.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Bell started his show in 1984 doing a standard issue political talk program, but he quickly tired of the predictable emotional distanced debates over the issues of the day. For Mr. Bell, the question of the night were infinitely more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
In 1996, Mr. Bell suggested that the Hale-Bopp comet, then the subject of great popular fascination, was being trailed by a UFO. A theory cited as a possible reason that the members of the Heaven's Gate cult committed mass suicide that same year.
And that's when he started talking about how the government was trying to kill him.
Right.
Because they wanted to silence him.
Sure. There is a difference in what people are willing to consider daytime versus nighttime, Mr. Bell told the Washington Post in 1998. It's dark, and you don't know what's out there.
Yeah.
And the way things are now, there may be something. Mr. Bell's voice was usually formal, with a classic announcer's cadence, patient and crystalline, by no means a sleepy sound. What he offered listeners was companionship, I'll agree with that, and a therapeutic acceptance.
Yeah.
The novelist Don DeLillo, I think that's how you say his name, once wrote that if you maintain a force in the world that comes into people's sleep, you are exercising a meaningful power. I guess that's what you had.
Yeah.
Because you went to sleep with your earbuds in, listening to Coast to Coast.
Yeah, I did. Loved Art.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Bell, who drew an audience about 10 million listeners a week, saw himself not as an authority, but as a fellow explorer. He wore his gullibility proud. He believed in possibilities, and he loved the idea that his openness to paranormal events had helped build the nation's appetite for Twin Peaks, The X-Files, and other expressions the edges of reality.
Dude, he made a lot of money for a lot of people other than himself.
I'm sure he did.
Well, think about it. The like you just said, X-Files and Twin Peaks, those are all based on his show or on his ideas from his show. Day After Tomorrow, he didn't he write that? Him and Whitley Strieber?
I think so.
And Whitley Strieber, he's had his whole career because of Art Bell. And that guy, Michio Kaku, the physicist guy, that guy is now on like every UFO show on the History Channel. If there's a History Channel thing, Michio Kaku is on it. And I think he even had his own show at some point. And that guy just was a guest on Art sometimes. And Jim Mars is another one. You know who Jim Mars is?
I don't know.
Jim Mars is like considered the authority on the JFK assassination.
Okay.
He's the guy with the beard and the cowboy hat.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
But he got his start with Art. He was on Art Bell all the time.
That would be a button, a button that you would wear, a slogan button. I got my start with Art.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Art was a one of a kind, man. I'm not gonna lie, I am definitely not happy about this one. I mean, they all die, and many more are gonna die in our lifetime, but. That's a tough one. Thank God. And this is like the only use that there still is for Shoutcast. I don't know when the last time you actually went to Shoutcast's website was.
I haven't looked at Shoutcast in years.
But if you go to Shoutcast, there are two stations out there. There's the very best of Art Bell and the ultimate Art Bell. And they're just 24/7 Art Bell, where they just play all the old Art Bell stuff.
It's kind of like the CMS stream.
Yeah, pretty much. But I go out to that, and I do listen some nights when TV's not working for me. Like if the TV's keeping me awake or something, I'll throw on the very best of Art Bell on my phone and just go to sleep listening to Art still.
Sure.
Love it.
He wrote a book, The Quickening, spelling out his theory that every aspect of life was accelerating and changing so dramatically that the world was hurtling toward doom.
Yeah, he's right about that.
Of course, Mr. Bell had his own experiences that matched those of his callers. On the way home to Pahrump from Las Vegas one summer night, he and his wife, Ramona, were about a mile from their home when she blurted out, "What the hell is that?" Mm-hmm. The couple gazed up. Hovering over the road, they saw an enormous triangular craft, each side about 150 feet long, with two bright lights on each point of the triangle. After a while, the craft floated directly over the Bells. It was silent, Mr. Bell recounted. Dead silent.
Wow. It killed Ramona and replaced her with an Asian.
Right. It did not appear to have an engine. After a few moments, the craft floated across the valley and out of sight.
Whoa.
On the radio, when he told such stories, he would ask listeners, try to send mental connective thoughts to ask these beings to show themselves. It really doesn't matter that much to me if anyone believes me, Mr. Bell said years later. Thousands of people seeing the same thing cannot all be wrong. And if they were wrong, at least they were wrong together, he said.
Right.
Whether his show was taken as entertainment or a revelation, he believed it was healthier than the other blather on the radio. Morning shows that compete to find the worst language you can manage to get on the air, the most, I wonder who that would be.
Us.
Or Howard Stern.
Howard Stern, O&A.
The most controversial topics, he said dismissively. I guess Art would not be a fan of ours.
No, not at all.
Guns, abortion. I talk about weird stuff. What I do only works at night, only on the radio.
Right.
His politics were all over the map. A self-described libertarian, he opposed abortion, supported same-sex marriage, and was skeptical of the science behind global warming. It's kind of a mixed bag for him, isn't it?
Yeah, sounds like, well, me. Because I'm like that, too. I don't buy into any fucking one side or the other.
Nope. He blamed Richard Nixon for spawning a nation of cynics, supported Barry Goldwater in 1964 and Ross Perot in 1992, came to consider Bill Clinton a great president and said he voted for Barack Obama in 2008.
Well, fuck him then. I'm glad he's dead.
Mr. Bell had no stomach for haters. He had a white supremacist on as a guest, made him comfortable enough for him to spout racist views, and then Mr. Bell informed the guest, "I'm married to a brown-skinned Asian woman." Born June 17th, 1945 in Jacksonville, North Carolina, Art Bell III grew up with a 7-transistor AM radio tucked under his pillow at night.
Right.
And when he was supposed to be sleeping, he listened instead to the pioneers of talk radio as they batted around alternative ideas about who really killed John F. Kennedy or how the CIA controlled people's minds.
Yeah. Yeah, that was another topic that he would hit on a lot, that whole mind control thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was big into that.
Yep. Mr. Bell, a Marine brat who said he attended more than 30 high schools as his family moved around. 30 high schools.
Jeez.
Served as a medic for the Air Force in Vietnam and began his broadcasting work on the military station in Okinawa, Japan, where he once stayed on the air as a DJ for 116 hours nonstop.
Jesus.
Earning an entry in the Guinness Book of World Records. He also held the record for seesawing while broadcasting for 57 hours.
Who did he beat?
I don't know the answer.
That's my question. Who did he beat for that seesaw record?
I guess he must have been playing the Moody Blues song, "Come Ride My Seesaw."
Over and over.
Yeah. The top
57 hours.
Exactly. The top 40 AM radio DJs did that sort of thing back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
After studying engineering at the University of Maryland, Mr. Bell returned to radio, playing the hits on small station in New England and California.
Okay.
So as a DJ, as if any of you ever watched Howard Stern's Private Parts, if you were ever going to make it in the business, and we kind of talked about this a little bit about in the music business anyway, it's all or nothing.
Right.
So, DJs in general, if you ever were going to become, a national success, you had to be willing to pick it up and move it.
Sure.
Whenever that opportunity arose.
Mm-hmm.
The work left him feeling empty. He moved to Las Vegas, where he was working as a cable guy, when a radio station asked him to take on a part-time overnight slot as a talk show host.
Wow.
His nightly coast-to-coast show ran from 1989 to 2003, and he continued broadcasting on weekends until 2007. He briefly returned with a satellite radio show in 2013 and an online program, Midnight in the Desert, in 2015.
And when he says briefly, it was brief. It was like a month. He was on for like 1 month, and then he had a problem with Sirius because Sirius wouldn't let him. What was it? Sirius wouldn't let him stream the bumpers. That's why he quit the set. I don't know if you knew that story or not, but he was streaming the show live. That was part of his deal. But Sirius wouldn't pick up the cost for the bumpers. And remember, he did all his bumpers were songs, were like, licensed music. So because he had such a high listener volume, it was like $100,000 a month or something.
Wow.
And he said, fuck that. He said, I'm not going to do that. And he fucking went back into hibernation.
Nice. Hail and Kill, caller, you're on the air.
Hail and Kill. Hi, guys.
Hey, Tim James.
How are you, mate?
We're well. It's Old Home Week. Tim James is on the air with us. You got some fans out there that really like you, Tim.
Yeah, well, I call because I really love you guys.
Oh, wow. Have you got half a stock at least right now for both of us?
I can't say that I do.
Okay. Well, what's on your mind tonight, Tim? It's been a while since we've heard from you.
Well, it's just because life's been crazy, and I've been playing lots of shows, and I've been playing in Queensland.
Yeah, when you're on the road, man. When you come off the road and you're all dragged out, man. Got to deal with the old lady and the kid when you get back to the house, man.
Well, not quite like that.
Yeah, all right, Tim. Well, what's on your mind?
So how much do you reckon Eddie Trunk gets at Sirius?
At Sirius?
Yeah. I know you guys were talking about Sirius.
Well, he does his Trunk Nation show once a week. Sometimes, I mean, because lately he hasn't really done a lot of that. And then he's on that. What is that station he's on, Chris?
With the Boneyard, or
no. He's on a daily show.
Dude, I don't have it anymore. I don't know.
Oh, he does a daily show, but I don't know, Chris. What are you thinking? What do you think he gets per show?
Per show, I don't think he gets paid per show. I think he's on a month-to-month thing. I bet $50,000 a year. That would be my guess. You think that's crazy?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's crazy at all. For a year? No. $50,000 a year? No.
I think that's $1,000 a week.
Do you guys reckon he's a millionaire?
I don't know. He must be if he can just throw shirts away whenever he wants to.
It's tough to say, Tim. I mean, the guy's married. He's got a couple of kids, I guess. He has to go out and do these live performances. I mean, I heard him about a week ago on my way home. He was doing his Trunk Nation thing, and he's got all these, appearances he does. So I'm sure that he's got to do these travel dates in order to make ends meet, and he lives in New York, which isn't cheap. So I don't know, Tim. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Like he always talks about it on the. It's only because you guys were talking about Sirius that it tweaked in me all this stuff. He always talks about in his show about how he's just getting by and all that stuff. But I can't believe that.
Why can't you believe that?
Well, I can't imagine that. I mean, I'm not saying he's got that he's a multi-millionaire or anything like that. But I can't imagine that he's just getting by. I mean, I guess it just depends on what your version of just getting by is. Like I reckon he's got to be on at least with everything he does, with all his appearances and stuff. He's got to be on 100 G's a year.
Wait, that's not what you asked, though. I only gave what I thought he gets paid to do his show. Did you want to know what I think he makes in a year?
Yeah? What do you think?
100.5.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean...
Close me or no?
He doesn't...
I would say so, but the thing is he lives in New York, and just the taxes alone and the cost of living there alone, that would eat up 100.5 in no time.
I don't think he lives in New York, though. I think he lives in Jersey.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's just... And what? By the way, on this type of stuff, a little while ago, you may not have said anything about it yet because things might be brewing for you. But there was a guy that a little while ago, I don't know, a few months ago, that said he might be interested in investing in the classic metal show.
No, he wants to market us to some potential advertising clients, which he said it would be about 6 months before he would get around to talking to us. So I don't. If he comes back to us, I don't anticipate hearing anything from him till about June.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I don't even know what that's even involved. And if it never involves anything, it's no big deal, believe me.
Yeah, I just, like, have you guys heard of a show called That's Not Metal?
That's Not Metal?
Haven't heard of it.
Yeah. No.
Well, there's this, like, and I know a lot of podcasts do this, but these guys are really cool. They're from the UK, and they're the writers for like Metal Hammer, and because I was thinking about you guys a lot when they're writers from Metal Hammer and Kerrang magazine and stuff, and they've got this show called That's Not Metal. It's a podcast, but they're doing something that's quite revolutionary with their show. They've got like an app that's like and there's a platinum subscriber level, and they give you like hours and hours of content.
Yeah, well, we do that for free, Tim.
Yeah, I know.
Tim, I've said it before. I'll say it again. We're not looking to make this a business. Neely makes 6 figures. I make 6 figures. We don't need more business. We don't need more. Truthfully, for the money that the CMS would, I'll throw a number out there, which I don't know if is good or bad, low or high, whatever. Let's say the CMS were to generate $10,000 in a year. Okay? It's $5,000 for Neely, $5,000 for me. That is not worth the hassle that would come with it. It's not worth the tax hassle. It's not worth the division hassle of monies. It's not worth the effort. It's not worthy of. It's not
complaints.
Worth. The complaints. It's not worth the time that Neely and I would have to spend on a Wednesday night recording content only for the premium people. It's just not worth it. You know, we got enough going on. I work 18 hours a day. Me finding 6 hours to do the CMS on Saturday is enough. That's hard.
Yeah. I don't know. I just always think about you guys.
All right, Tim. Next topic. What do you got?
And by the way, the channel that Eddie is on a daily basis on Sirius XM, he's on
Volume.
Yeah, Volume. Yeah, he does a 2-hour show every day from 2 to 4.
I don't know why I'm obsessed with that guy. I just think, I don't know, for some weird reason.
All right, Tim, next topic. Come on.
Okay. I was listening to an interview you guys did with Dokken at the beginning of the year with Don.
All right.
He seems to love this DVD, and I've got the. But what's interesting, because I saw a review. I've got it on. It's on my friend. I've got this friend that works at Amazon that sends me all this stuff, and he's sending it to me. And but I saw a review on Blabbermouth that pretty much agreed with everything you guys said.
Yeah, of course. Well, we got our finger on the pulse of the music world.
And so I'm still kind of looking forward to seeing it though, because as I said, they've never been here.
All right, Tim, that's great. Next topic.
That's great. And why? And one more thing: why can Bobby Blocker keep mouthing off about Raph?
All right, Tim, this has been one of your better calls that I can remember in recent times. So thank you so much for calling in. We really appreciate it tonight.
Hail and kill.
Hail and kill. There goes Tim. He's got a lot of questions.
My God.
Tim's got a lot of questions on his mind.
I might not have been so annoyed with that call if he didn't sound like he was having a Tourette's attack. Jesus fucking Christ! You guys, Tim, slow down. You've talked to us a million times. Don't be nervous.
Yeah,
all right, come on.
It's funny that we're on the forefront of his mind.
Yeah, but he was it me or was he all Tourette'sy tonight?
Yeah, he was a little stuttery.
Yeah, I was like, dude, come on. Is my fucking stream fucking up? What? Jesus.
All right. Getting back to Art Bell.
All right.
An influence for both Chris and myself.
Mm-hmm.
His nightly coast-to-coast show ran from 1989 to 2003, and he continued broadcasting on weekends until 2007. He briefly returned with satellite radio show in 2013 and an online program, Midnight in the Desert, in 2015. That show ended after a few months because Mr. Bell said someone had taken to firing a weapon at his Nevada property.
That's not how it went down at all.
Well, that's what they quoted here.
Okay.
Mr. Bell was married 4 times.
Jesus.
4 times.
So he had no money at the end.
To Sachquito Pontius.
Guilty.
Vicky Baker.
She's the one that got most of the money.
From who he was divorced.
Mm-hmm.
Ramona Hayes, who died in 2006.
Yeah.
And Aaron, Airyn,
yeah,
Ruiz, who he met when she befriended him online after the death of his previous wife.
Yeah, like an hour after.
Ruiz was then 22 and living in the Philippines.
He was like 60.
Yeah. He is survived. Well, see, that radio thing, that must be the thing about older guys and younger chicks.
Yeah.
He is survived by Ruiz and his 5 children.
Jesus.
Vincent Pontius, Lisa Pontius, Mani, Arthur Bell the Fourth, Asia Bell. He's got a kid named Asia.
Sure.
And Alexander Bell.
Yeah,
Alexander Bell?
His middle name Graham.
Naturally, Mr. Bell died on Friday the 13th.
Of course. And he had that weird thing at the end with the wife, the last wife, where everything in his life had to be A-B.
Right.
Because his wife was Aaron Bell, he was Art Bell. Then he had another kid that was Alexander Bell, and what was the daughter's name?
What was her name?
The next to last one.
Oh, Lisa?
Not Lisa.
Mani, Minei.
Read the last 2 names.
Arthur Bell the Fourth, Asia Bell.
Asia Bell. Asia and then Alexander.
Right.
Were the ones that he had with that 22-year-old. So that they were all initialed AB.
Right. That's kind of bizarre that he would marry a Asian chick and they would name their child Asia.
Made it easier to keep track of her.
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Well, that does suck. What's your favorite? Do you have a favorite Art Bell segment or piece or anything?
Not off the top of my head, no, because I literally, it's been decades since I've listened to Coast to Coast. I mean, obviously we did the Coast to Coast with Jason the Horse, but that was not with Art Bell.
That was Ian Punnett. That was the mighty Ian Punnett,
right?
Who's now Deacon Punnett. He quit doing Coast to Coast to become a priest. But no, my favorite, without question, was he used to interview this guy, and he had him on often. I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy claimed he was from the future. And Art would interview him for hours about what was coming in the future. And he would be like, well, what's going to happen next year? And what's going to happen in 2018 and 2022 and whatever. And this guy had stories for days about what was coming. And I don't know how much of it was real, came across as real or happened or whatever. But this guy, what was cool was that this guy was not vague. He wasn't like, yeah, there's going to be great disturbances in your country. You know, he wasn't one of those guys. He was one of those guys that say, there's going to be a guy, his name is Bob Smith, and he's going to kill 33 people in a school. You know, he always had these crazy stories like that, and it was great listening. I think Art probably purposely kept him off long enough between to where people wouldn't remember what he'd said the last time. But I loved listening to that guy every time he was on. It was always good listening with Art.
Mm-hmm.
And when he would do conspiracies, again, were always my thing. When he would do 9/11, when he would do JFK, any of that shit. Pearl Harbor was a big one for him. You know, loved it. I was a big Art Bell fan. Still am. Sad to see him go. Thank God it's still available online everywhere to listen to whenever you want to.
Yeah, and, you know, in the whole scheme of things, I mean, he was 72.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't like ancient.
No. You know what? I mean, and nobody's saying what he died of.
Well, he was a smoker.
Yeah, but nobody's saying he died of cancer. Or he died
No,
of,
I'm sure. It was probably some like heart attack or congestive heart failure or something like that.
No, and that kook, he had his lawyer keeping it secret just to keep the mystery going.
Right.
You know, don't tell anybody when I'm dead.
Yeah.
Don't let them know that my heart just stopped.
Did he really die?
Yeah. Did the UFOs come and take his soul with them to the outer galaxy?
You never know, man.
Never do, but sad to see Art Bell go.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely a sad day. You know who else is a big Art Bell fan? Our friend Bill Peters.
Yeah, I remember him talking about that.
Yeah, Bill was a big Art Bell fan too. He's how I found out that Art died today. Was he threw me a link that Art had died. I was like, get the fuck out of here. It's not how I want to wake up. Fucking Trump starts World War III and Art Bell dies all on the same day. Jesus Christ. I can't handle all this bad news.
Right.
It's tragic.
Well, anyway, an influence in the broadcasting world, somewhere where both Chris and I got a little bit of our own influences.
Sure.
And, well, Art Bell to be remembered, a pioneer in the music business, but the broadcasting business.
Yes. Sad to see him go.
All right. Well, I'm going to play a tune or two.
All right.
I'm going to dedicate this to you and I and all the Art Bell people who used Art as an influence in their broadcasting career. That would be yourself and myself and Bill Peters and whoever else is out there.
Sure.
I'm going to play some Pin Siren.
Okay.
The Poor Man's Skid Row.
Yes.
And we're a slave to our master.
That's right.
So here it is. It's Pin Siren exclusively here
on your classic metal show.
This is Gary Velasco from Pin Siren, and you're listening to the Classic Metal Show with Neely. Rock on.